Have you ever had one of those mornings when you stand up too quickly and suddenly it feels like your legs have been replaced with buzzing wires? That sharp sting, that odd tingling that makes you pause for a moment, shake it off, and tell yourself, I probably just slept on my leg wrong. I used to think that way too. Back when I was in my late 40s, I'd get this strange numbness in my feet whenever I sat too long at my desk. At first, I brushed it off. Life gets busy. You don't think too much about little things like that. But then, one evening, I was trying to open a jar of pasta sauce simple, right? And out of nowhere, this bolt of pain shot through my wrist and into my hand. It felt like electricity. My grip went weak. The jar slipped, shattered on the kitchen floor, and I just stood there staring at my own hand like it belonged to someone else. That was the first time it really hit me. Something deeper was going on. This wasn't just age, or sitting too long, or sleeping funny. My nerves were crying out. And here's the truth that nobody told me until much later: your nerves, those tiny highways of electrical signals running through every inch of your body, need specific vitamins every single day to stay healthy, strong, and functional. But most of us, we starve our nerves without even realizing it. Think about it. We obsess over protein for our muscles. We talk endlessly about calcium for our bones. But nerves, they're silent until they misfire, until they burn, tingle, go numb, or send you crashing into pain you never saw coming. And by the time you really notice, the damage could already be underway. That's why today, I want to take you on a journey most people never get to hear. A journey into 6 essential vitamins that don't just support your nerves, they actively repair, protect, and strengthen them. I'm not talking about miracle pills or overnight cures. I'm talking about real, science-backed nutrients that your body is begging for. And here's the twist. Some of these vitamins might already be sitting in your fridge, hiding in plain sight. Others, you've probably never thought about them in the context of nerve health. But once you see how they work, you'll never look at that morning omelet or that handful of nuts the same way again. So grab a seat, because if you've ever felt those electric zaps, that pins and needles sensation, or that scary weakness in your grip, this conversation might just change the way you think about your body. Vitamin B12, the body's electrician. Let's kick things off with the superstar vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin. If your nervous system were a VIP party, B12 would be the guest of honor with the brightest glow stick in hand. Here's why. Picture your nerves like bundles of wires. Now, every wire needs insulation to keep the current flowing smoothly, right? In your body, that insulation is something called the myelin sheath. It's this fatty, protective covering that wraps around your nerves, keeping signals sharp, fast, and uninterrupted. Vitamin B12 is the repairman, the electrician. Without enough of it, that insulation starts to fray. Messages get delayed, scrambled, or lost entirely. And you're left with numbness, tingling, weakness, balance problems, even memory loss if the deficiency gets severe. I'll never forget a neighbor of mine, Mr. Peterson, retired Marine, tough as nails. But in his early 60s, he started tripping over his own feet. First it was once in a while, then almost daily. He thought he was just getting clumsy with age. But when he finally saw a neurologist, the verdict was shocking. Severe vitamin B12 deficiency had been quietly eroding his nervous system for years. And here's the kicker: you could be eating perfectly fine and still end up low on B12, especially as you get older. Why? Because your stomach produces less acid with age. That acid is crucial for absorbing B12 from food. So even if you're enjoying steak dinners or eggs every morning, your body might not be getting enough of the vitamin. A landmark study in the New England Journal of Medicine found that vitamin B12 deficiency is one of the most overlooked causes of peripheral neuropathy, that's nerve damage outside the brain and spinal cord. The scary part, many people don't find out until symptoms get bad. So, where do we get B12? Mostly from animal products. Beef liver, which, by the way, is basically nature's multivitamin. Fish, eggs, dairy, poultry. If you're vegetarian or vegan, you're especially at risk. That's why so many plant-based folks need to supplement or turn to fortified foods. The recommended daily allowance RDA for adults is just a point for micrograms per day. Sounds tiny, right? But here's the catch. Your body is great at absorbing large amounts at once. That's why a steady, smaller daily dose is usually better than one massive pill a week unless your doctor prescribes otherwise. I've seen people feel sharper, more energetic, more alive after checking their B12 levels. I even had a friend who swore it saved her from constant brain fog. But a word of caution, don't start popping B12 like it's candy. While it's generally safe because it's water-soluble, high doses should still be supervised, especially if you've got kidney issues or blood disorders. So, if you want your nerves firing like a perfectly tuned orchestra, no misbeats, no glitchy signals, make sure you're giving them enough B12. Whether it's a juicy salmon steak, a cheesy omelet, or a well-balanced supplement, your nervous system will thank you with every smooth, pain-free step you take. Vitamin B1, the silent workhorse. Now, let's move on to vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. If B12 is the rock star, B1 is the dependable bassist. Not flashy, not loud, but absolutely essential. Without it, the whole band falls apart. Thiamine's main gig, turning food into energy. But here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. It's also crucial for nerve signal transmission. Think of it as the translator that makes sure your brain, muscles, and nerves all understand each other. When you don't get enough thiamine, your nerves get cranky, weakness, numbness, burning sensations in the feet, balance problems, and in severe cases, you could develop beriberi, a disease that once devastated communities living off polished white rice. Or worse, Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, a dangerous brain disorder often linked to chronic alcoholism. I once volunteered at a clinic where we treated several patients struggling with alcoholism. Many of them weren't just battling addiction, they were battling profound thiamine deficiency. Some couldn't even walk straight. Their nervous systems were breaking down from the inside. All because of a vitamin most people never think twice about. A study published in the journal Nutrients confirmed this. Thiamine deficiency doesn't just reduce energy production, it directly impairs nerve conduction and damages the myelin sheath. Without it, your nerve fibers are sitting ducks. Now, where do we find this quiet hero? Whole grains, pork, legumes, nuts, seeds. But here's the modern tragedy: processing wipes out most of the thiamine. That fluffy white bread you love, your nerves hate it. They'd much rather have dense whole grain toast. The RDA for thiamine, about 1.1 milligrams for women, 1.2 milligrams for men. Doesn't sound like much, right? But even small shortfalls add up over time. While supplements are usually safe, huge doses without medical supervision aren't smart. It's always best to aim for a varied diet first. I like to think of B1 as the backstage manager at a concert. The one who makes sure the lights come on, the sound checks are smooth, the band cues at the right time. Without that manager, chaos takes over. And here's a little secret most folks don't know. When you restore thiamine levels, people often describe it as if their brain suddenly wakes up. It's not as famous as B12, but it might just be the key to keeping your whole nervous system in harmony. The hidden messenger, vitamin B6. If B12 is the electrician and B1 is the backstage manager, then vitamin B6 pyridoxine is the multitasking messenger who never sleeps. Seriously, this vitamin wears more hats than a high school drama teacher. Here's the deal. B6 is a key player in creating neurotransmitters. Think of neurotransmitters as the text messages of your nervous system. They're how your brain tells your fingers to tap the keyboard, or your lips to curl into a smile. Without them, the whole communication system falls apart. Now, imagine sending a text message without service. It just sits there with that dreaded message failed to send error. That's what your nerves feel like without enough vitamin B6. The signals stall. The conversations between brain and body break down. And here's the kicker: B6 doesn't just make sure messages are delivered. It also helps regulate levels of homocysteine, an amino acid that, in high amounts, can wreak havoc on your blood vessels and nerves. Elevated homocysteine is like traffic gridlock on your nerve highways. Signals get jammed, damage piles up. A study in neurotoxicology revealed a chilling link. People with high homocysteine and low B6 had a much greater risk of nerve degeneration and even cognitive decline. In other words, not paying attention to B6 isn't just a nerve problem, it's a brain problem. I remember my Aunt Linda, a retired teacher in her late 60s. She had always been sharp, quick with crossword puzzles, the one who corrected everyone's grammar at family barbecues. But one summer, she started forgetting things. Small at first, losing her keys, missing a doctor's appointment. Then it got worse. Her hands trembled, her mood sank, and she described this strange buzzing in her arms. Turns out, she was deficient in vitamin B6. Her doctor spotted it through blood work. After correcting it with diet and supplementation, the turnaround was almost unbelievable. The trembling lessened, her focus sharpened again, and that heavy cloud of depression started to lift. And that's another secret about B6, it has a quiet, but powerful, impact on your mood. Why? Because it helps produce serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter. Without enough serotonin, stress weighs heavier, sadness lingers longer, and sleep gets rocky. Now, where do you get this mood-lifting nerve guardian? B6 is in chickpeas. Ever had a good hummus platter? Salmon, chicken, turkey, bananas, potatoes, fortified cereals, nuts, and seeds. If your plate is colorful and whole, chances are you're already giving your nerves some B6 love. The recommended daily intake for adults under 50, it's about 1.3 milligrams. For men over 50, 1.7 milligrams. For women over 50, 1.5 milligrams. Tiny numbers, but huge impact. But here's the warning label. More is not better. In fact, too much B6, usually from high-dose supplements, not food, can cause actual nerve damage. Yes, the very vitamin that protects your nerves can hurt them if abused. That's why experts caution against taking more than 100 milligrams daily without strict medical supervision. Food first is always the best approach. Supplements only when truly needed, guided by your doctor. To me, vitamin B6 feels like the quiet friend who always checks in on you, the one who keeps conversations flowing, makes sure you're okay, and lifts you up when life gets heavy. Ignore them, and you feel the absence. Nourish that friendship, and you thrive. So, if you want nerve signals crisp, reflexes sharp, and your mood on the sunnier side, give vitamin B6 the respect it deserves. The Sunlit Manor. Vitamin D. Now let's step outside for a moment. Feel the sunlight on your skin, that warmth, that glow. It's not just lifting your mood, it's awakening a vital nutrient your nerves depend on. Vitamin D. Most of us know vitamin D as the bone vitamin, the one your doctor nags you about if you're worried about osteoporosis. But here's the hidden truth. Vitamin D isn't just flexing for your skeleton. It's deeply intertwined with your nervous system. Think of vitamin D as the wise old mentor in a movie. Not flashy, not the hero in the spotlight, but the one who guides, protects, and strengthens the main character behind the scenes. That's exactly what it does for your nerves. You see, nerve cells actually have vitamin D receptors. When vitamin D connects with those receptors, it activates the production of neurotransmitters, proteins that help your nerves grow, repair, and stay resilient. Imagine your nerves as tiny plants. Neurotransmitters are the premium fertilizer that keeps them green and thriving. A study published in the Journal of Neurology found a striking connection. People with low vitamin D levels had a much higher risk of peripheral neuropathy, a painful condition where nerves in the hands and feet start to fail. Tingling, burning, weakness, it all ties back. And it doesn't stop there. Low vitamin D has also been linked to multiple sclerosis (MS), where the immune system attacks the protective myelin sheath around nerves. Researchers are still unraveling the details, but the evidence is strong. Vitamin D isn't just about bones. It's a frontline defender for your nerves. Now here's the tricky part. Getting vitamin D, as simple as it sounds. Yes, sunlight is the classic source your skin makes vitamin D when exposed to UVB rays. But as you age, your skin becomes less efficient at this process. Add sunscreen, clothing, indoor jobs, or long winters in northern states, and suddenly you're running on empty. Dietary sources exist, but they're limited. Fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel, fortified milk or orange juice, egg yolks, even certain mushrooms exposed to UV light. Still, studies show that most Americans, especially older adults, don't get enough. The recommended intake is 600 IU per day for adults up to 70, and 800 IU for those over 70. But many experts argue those numbers are too low, suggesting closer to 1,000 to 2,000 IU daily for optimal nerve and immune health. And here's something I'll never forget. A family friend, Carol, lived through long winters in Minnesota. She was constantly tired, moody, and complained about this persistent burning in her legs. Her doctor ran tests vitamin D deficiency, severe. Within months of proper supplementation and a little more time outdoors, her symptoms eased dramatically. She felt alive again, like someone had flipped on the lights in her body. But here's the warning. Too much vitamin D can be toxic. Unlike water-soluble vitamins, vitamin D is fat-soluble. Excess builds up. Overdo it, and you risk hypercalcemia, dangerously high calcium in the blood, which can damage the heart and kidneys. That's why blood tests are crucial before starting high-dose supplements. There's also another piece most people miss. Vitamin D, a powerful anti-inflammatory. Chronic inflammation slowly eats away at nerves like rust on a car. By reducing inflammation, vitamin D protects the very foundation of your nervous system. Think about it: sunlight, food, a simple supplement if needed. Small actions that stack up to protect your most delicate electrical network. So the next time you feel the sun on your face, remember, it's more than just warmth. It's a mentor whispering to your nerves. Grow, repair, endure. You see, I was sitting in my neurology office a few years ago when I met a man named George. He was in his 70s, a former steel mill worker in Pennsylvania. George came to me with the same concerns that millions of Americans face: numbness in his hands and pins and needles running down his arms. "Doc," he said, "I used to lift 100-pound steel plates without blinking. Now, just holding a cup of coffee makes my hand shake so much I'm afraid to drop it." George's case made me think a lot about a vitamin that's often overlooked when it comes to nerve health: vitamin E. Vitamin E, the invisible guard of nerve cells. Vitamin E isn't actually a single molecule, but rather a whole group of powerful antioxidant compounds, collectively called tocopherols and tocotrienols. Its biggest role is to protect nerve cell membranes from the ravages of free radicals. Think of each nerve in your body as a rubber-coated electrical wire. The rubber is the cell membrane and the myelin layer. If the coating is damaged, the electrical current will fluctuate, and this is when vitamin E steps in like an invisible sentinel, extinguishing the oxidative sparks before they can burn the wire. A study at Harvard University once showed that people with stable vitamin E levels were less likely to suffer from diabetic nerve damage. Another study at the Mayo Clinic also found that vitamin E supplementation can improve nerve sensitivity in neuropathy patients. But the interesting thing is, vitamin E is not immediately noticeable. It does not create explosive changes like vitamin B12, but rather is a durable armor, quietly protecting over the years. George is proof. George's story: when I checked George's diet, I noticed that he hardly ever ate nuts. "Doc, I prefer bacon and white bread." He smiled, though his smile was tinged with worrying. I suggested that George try adding almonds, sunflower seeds, and a little extra virgin olive oil to his meals. We also added a small dose of vitamin E from a supplement, since at his age, his absorption from food is no longer optimal. About 3 months later, George returned. He held out his hand, a little shaky, but not as shaky as before. "Doc, I can hold my coffee now without worrying about my wife cleaning it up every morning." His eyes lit up with pride. The story reminded me that sometimes, Small changes, a handful of nuts, a spoonful of olive oil, can be the key to a lifetime of renewed confidence. Vitamin C, the silent repairman of the nervous system. If vitamin E is the armor, vitamin C is like a tireless repairman. When we are young, we often think of vitamin C as a weapon against colds. But for the nervous system, it is much more important. Regenerating collagen and connective tissue. Nerve fibers need to be surrounded and supported by healthy connective tissue. Vitamin C is a key factor in the production of collagen, the body's natural glue. Anti-inflammatory. Inflammation is the silent enemy of nerves. Vitamin C helps reduce inflammation and swelling around the nerves, increasing blood circulation. By protecting the blood vessel walls, vitamin C helps the blood flow to carry oxygen and nutrients to the nerves more regularly. Linda's story. Another patient of mine, Linda, 62, used to be a teacher in Texas. She developed neuropathy after years of type 2 diabetes. I tried all kinds of medications, Linda shared, but every night I woke up with my feet burning. We tested her and found that her vitamin C levels were low. Linda's diet was lacking in fresh fruits and vegetables. She was used to eating sandwiches, fast food, and drinking soda instead of orange juice or smoothies. I suggested something very simple. Add oranges, kiwis, and red peppers to her daily meals. I also prescribed a low-dose vitamin C supplement. 2 months later, Linda teared up as she recounted, "Doc, I slept through the night for the first time in years. It was just sleep, but it was more precious than gold." That statement made me realize that sometimes small things like a fresh orange can change the quality of life. When science meets life, you see, vitamin E and C, a seemingly familiar couple, are actually silent warriors in the journey to heal nerves. Not noisy, not ostentatious, but day by day, they protect, regenerate, and nourish the fragile wires that connect our entire body. In America, where fast food and busy habits have turned fruits and vegetables into luxuries, many people do not realize that they are losing their nerve protection, and then they are surprised when numbness, tingling, insomnia, or memory loss gradually appear. Conclusion: a message from the heart. As I tell this story, perhaps many of you who are watching are also worried about nerves. Maybe you are familiar with the scene of waking up in the middle of the night because your feet are burning. Maybe you are struggling to find a solution to the hand tremors that make you shy about holding a glass of water in front of others. Or maybe you just want to keep your brain and nervous system sharp so you can enjoy your old age with your children and grandchildren. What I want to emphasize is, you are not alone, and the solution is not always an expensive prescription. Sometimes, the answer is right on the dinner table, in a handful of almonds, a glass of fresh orange juice, a plate of colorful vegetables. Vitamins B12, B1, B6, D, E, and C, 6 companions that science has proven can work together to rebuild your neuroprotective wall, not in a day, not in an instant miracle, but step by step, day by day. George regained his confidence when he was able to hold a cup of coffee again. Linda found peaceful sleep again, and I believe you can find what you thought you had lost. So, if you're listening, start with your next meal. It's a small change, but it can go a long way. And remember, our bodies have an amazing ability to heal themselves. It's all about giving them what they need. And these 6 vitamins are the key.